BTS News Today. The sky over Seoul was still dark when the news began circulating quietly, like a whisper preparing to erupt into a roar. A rumor here, a hint there, but within minutes, the world was already wide awake. Social platforms exploded, notifications malfunctioned from the overload, and hashtags with one name at the center began climbing faster than anyone could refresh the screen. Jungkook, the youngest member of BTS, once the golden magne known for his limitless potential, had just turned that potential into a milestone so monumental it permanently engraved his name into the global entertainment record books. His debut solo era, titled simply Golden, was no longer just a highly successful album. It had just become a cultural event that refused to stop expanding its influence. From award stages to streaming platforms, he had already conquered. But now, in a shocking new move, Jungkook had achieved something that only a select few global icons had accomplished in history: that a triple magazine acquisition. 3 major print powerhouses, 3 different countries, 1 single star dominating all covers simultaneously. Where most artists dream of landing a single prestigious cover, Jungkook had quietly secured the front pages of 3 of the world's most influential fashion and music magazines: Korea, Japan, and the United States, in a coordinated release that none of the publications dared preview ahead of time. No teasers, no leaks, no countdowns, just a sudden drop that shook the world. As dawn broke, store shelves emptied by the minute, websites crashed under unprecedented demand, and delivery systems scrambled to update restock estimates. People camped outside bookstores. Scalpers smelled profit. Photographers ran outside to document lines that curled around buildings, capturing the wild frenzy that only a true global superstar could incite. This was not an accident. This was not luck. This was the rise of Jungkook as a singular force, no longer defined by potential, but by sheer, unstoppable achievement. The covers were masterpieces, each drastically different, each revealing a side of Jungkook the world had never seen. The Korean edition chose elegance and vulnerability, showcasing the purity of a star who had risen from the heart of Seoul. Japan embraced his dark charisma, portraying a magnetic artist with eyes that concealed 1,000 untold secrets. The United States went bold and rebellious, spotlighting the unapologetic icon who had taken over Western charts with no translator, no safety net, and no hesitation. 3 countries, 3 visions, 1 golden artist. Inside each magazine, pages overflowed with extensive interviews that peeled back layers fans had longed to hear directly from him. Behind-the-scenes stories about his album, words he struggled to express before, confessions about loneliness hidden behind blinding spotlights, and his overwhelming gratitude that sometimes made him feel too small for the love he received. Readers warned each other online. Prepare tissues, as the interviews spread, emotions spiraled. It wasn't simply that Jungkook had achieved more than most could ever dream. It was the way he spoke, with sincerity so disarming, humility so raw, and passion so alive that everyone reading felt connected to his every breath. He didn't talk like a legend. He talked like someone who still couldn't fully believe he had become one. That industry leaders rushed to comment. Executives from brand headquarters in Europe and North America publicly congratulated him. Fashion critics praised his versatility, his aura, his effortless destruction of all creative boundaries. Music journalists called him the blueprint for future global artists. Analysts reported market movements, yes, even stocks, influenced by his activities once again. Meanwhile, his bandmates celebrated in quieter spaces. A few subtle posts, a few secret hand emojis. ARMY noticed everything. And when Jungkook finally emerged online hours later, the first sentence he typed was so simple that it made the world scream. "Thank you for believing in me." Millions of comments replied instantly, telling him that belief had never once wavered. The night before the magazines were released, an insider revealed, Jungkook stayed awake until sunrise. He didn't hold a massive party. He didn't celebrate loudly. He simply watched the city lights outside his window, headphones on, replaying his journey in the silence only he could hear. He was no longer the boy who used to wonder if he was good enough. He was the man who proved he always was. But this triple magazine takeover was just the beginning. Each interview hinted, carefully but unmistakably, that something much bigger was coming. Something so ambitious that even those who had followed his career since debut felt a new sense of anticipation start to burn inside them. Jungkook said a single sentence that triggered immediate global speculation. "This is the start of a new chapter. I'm ready to show everything." What did he mean? A world tour? A boundary-shattering music collaboration? A cinematic project? A fashion empire under his own name? The world didn't know yet, but it was already preparing. Behind the glamour of achievement, however, the magazines also revealed traces of Jungkook's struggles. He spoke about his growth, but also the price he had quietly paid to earn it. He admitted he had feared disappointing people. He admitted he sometimes felt suffocated by the weight of expectations. He admitted that stepping out alone, without his 6 brothers beside him, felt like jumping into a storm. But he also said that ARMY had been the light guiding his every step forward. The emotional depth of those pages left readers breathless. As news organizations continued crafting headlines, analysts realized that what Jungkook accomplished wasn't simply a milestone in career expansion. It was a cultural statement, a message that the era of Asian artists being underestimated had ended. That BTS legacy was not a moment, but a movement. That talent, dedication, and authenticity transcended the borders that media once insisted upon. Something historic had happened, and it carried Jungkook's name. Crowds gathered in public squares across Seoul, Tokyo, Los Angeles, New York, Jakarta, Manila, London, Paris. Fans held the magazines to their hearts as if they were trophies, because in a way, they were. Proof that their love and loyalty had helped build a king. Jungkook himself wasn't spotted in public that day. No airport, no filming set, no schedule. Just silence from the star who once again left the world breathlessly waiting for his next move. But those closest to him shared one clue. Jungkook smiled for hours after the news dropped. The kind of smile that only comes when someone realizes a dream they once held in the dark has finally stepped into the light. This was Jungkook's world. And the rest of us were simply witnessing his rise. Because Golden wasn't just the name of an album anymore. Golden was the era. Golden was the impact. Golden was Jungkook himself. He had arrived, he was shining, and he wasn't done. The day the magazines dropped, the headquarters of all 3 publishing companies experienced chaos unlike anything they had ever dealt with. Editors who once believed they understood what high demand meant were forced to rewrite their definition. Phone lines rang nonstop. Delivery trucks were redirected, delayed, called back, redeployed. Social media accounts crashed under millions of tags and reposts. Emergency printing shifts were called in, even in the middle of the night. The staff barely had time to celebrate their victory, because their victory had turned into a storm. Yet amid all the frenzy, there was a quiet scene glowing softly behind closed doors. Inside HYBE's towering glass building in Seoul, Jungkook sat in a dimly lit studio room, scrolling through the messages of fans from every continent. He wasn't in an extravagant suit or expensive styling like the magazine covers showed him. He wasn't surrounded by flashing lights. He was just himself, hair tied loosely, black hoodie, the faint reflection of monitor lights dancing across his eyes.